In this video, we will be reacting to the song Latinoamérica by Calle 13's, and that is at the suggestion of one of our wonderful viewers that always comes to our comment section and leaves some comments, Miss
Laura G.
Laura Guerrero. Yeah, I got it.
Or Guerra.
Well, it's a O. Oh, it is an A at the end. Never mind. But anyway.
And I'm not even wearing my glasses.
So thank you, Laura, for the suggestion. We appreciate you. And we'll be right back with you guys right after this.
Luv and Co, nurturing your natural beauty. Clean ingredients, conscious choices. Melanin focused, earth friendly, toxin free. Luv and Co, beauty with a heart. Wear love, share love. Now featuring, your skin deserves this treat. Our jojoba exfoliating skin scrub. It will leave your skin feeling so yummy, clean, and just absolutely healthier. Get your hands on our jojoba exfoliating scrub to get rid of that dead skin and to have your face looking healthier and feeling so refreshed. There is a link in the description.
Welcome to the 7997 podcast. We are your hosts, Chris and my lovely wife, Jackie.
Hey guys.
And every week we are trying to get closer to each other and closer to you guys out there. I think this is a good example of that. You know, you guys give us a suggestion. We're trying to follow through. Really give a little reaction video. We don't really do reaction videos, but hey, we'll give it a try. I think we can react to something that we see. I think
it's easy.
It's easy
for us, yes.
Yeah, I think so.
And Laura, whatever little magic you have, he listened to you. So God bless you. He doesn't listen to me. Roll the
That's because Laura does not bother me every day, all day.
But I feed you every day, bake cookies and everything. Roll the footage.
It wasn't no raisin in the oatmeal.
No, you did.
There's oatmeal and nuts. Where the raisins at? You're supposed to have some.
You ate them all up.
I did. They were delicious.
Let's go.
So without further ado, we're going to jump into it. Calle 13, Latinoamérica. Blind reaction.
Blind reaction.
I may have peeked just a little bit to get everything set up, but blind
definitely
reaction.
blind for me.
Because you don't have your glasses on.
You're so annoying.
Amables oyentes en esta mañana de su radio Inti-Radio. Aliyachu kaliyachu walayachu mereya kasekichis. Kaya pues kolyaktapika kiyatata kawalaktakuna piu yarimanikuna waikuna panaikuna. Kunaka ayintake wairakuna chayemuka kay Puerto Rico nasyong manta pacha. Paikuna sutikni.
I will say, starting off, I do like the visual style of the video. It has sort of that old filmic, almost 1970s kind of feel to it. Has a, gives it a certain authenticity, I think, to it. So even just from the look of it, I'm enjoying it so far.
And what language is this?
I think there's a mix of some indigenous languages. There's some Spanish. I think there's even some Portuguese in there as well.
Okay.
So it's a mixture of all of Latin America.
Okay.
Latinoamérica being the name of the song.
All right.
Mi Calle 13. Y las patas vemos taquita pomanchis. Chaita que suting mi Latinoamérica. Uyari kusunchis.
Cancunapa. Soy lo que dejar.
Did the heart pumping look like bread bacon to you?
No, but it creeped me out.
It just gave me a bread thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Soy toda la sobra de lo que se robaron, un pueblo escondido en la cima. Mi piel es de cuero, por eso aguanta cualquier clima. Soy una fábrica de humo, mano de obra campesina para tu consumo. Frente de frío en el medio del verano, el amor en los tiempos del cólera, mi hermano. El sol que nace y el día que muere.
I like that opening segment where we're showing all the different faces in the mirror, and like every one of those faces is a Latin American face, and it all looked very different. You could tell some had more indigenous, maybe Peruvian looks to it. There's some that even looked almost Asian, dark skin, light skin. Like it had a good mixture of, I think, the diaspora of the Latin American community and all the people that are connected to it. And like in Laura's comment, it was really starting around that idea of the kinship between Mexicans and African Americans, and I think some of that is because we are of the same people. You know, a lot of our people have mixed over the centuries together and have some of that kinship built, I think, from being oppressed by the same colonizers. So there's that.
Well, in addition to that, his words, the lyrics of the song starting out with being leathered and weathered, and they look tired. They look worn. So it was a beautiful similarity, if you will, you know. So he really matched that up. Because had he had some, you know, Victoria's Secret models in the mirror, it would not have matched.
Right.
And then, of course, you look at the setting. You know what I mean? There's nothing fancy, nothing fly about this. You know, being leathered and worn and beat down. You know, that's a hard way. So,
I will say that there are people who have the mentality that something leathered and worn has history, it's lived in, it's vintage, it has
tested,
survived. So it's not necessarily always a matter of being broken down, but also a matter of being broken in. I just came up with that.
Come on.
That was a word.
What?
Write that one down.
Come on, Pastor.
Next T-shirt. I'm not broken down. I'm broken in. Boom. With something in Spanish that is misspelled.
And out of tense.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool so far. I like it so far.
Los mejores atardeceres, soy el desarrollo en carne viva, un discurso político sin saliva, las caras más bonitas que he conocido, soy la fotografía de un desaparecido, la sangre dentro de tus venas, soy un pedazo de tierra que vale la pena una canasta con frijoles, soy Maradona contra Inglaterra, anotándote 2 goles, soy lo que sostiene mi bandera, la espina dorsal del planeta en mis cordilleras, soy lo que me enseñó mi...
I think what stuck out to me was I'm the missing person. I'm Maradona versus England. Like, when I think of the missing person, I almost think of the people that are trying to get across the border that maybe don't make it, you never see again. Families are looking for them like, hey, they try to get into America or they try to get across the border into Guatemala or Honduras or wherever. And some people don't make it, right? Some people don't make it there or don't make it back. So there's also sort of the searching out for more in the world, trying to find, you know, the thing that's going to provide for your family. But then there's also Maradona as, you know, a global figure in soccer and his impact versus England or, you know, those type of things where like there's just this wide spectrum of people. There's a bowl full of beans. There's this, all these things that as a Latin American, I can't say I, you know, can relate to all these things in the same way, but I can understand the connection between, you know, the least of those and the greatest of those who we, you know, may look up to. But like, what did you stand out to you?
Well, I was going to say, you know, the opposite of what you just said. Not necessarily getting lost, but because of diaspora story for many of us, right? Pretty much all of us, you know, I'm not just in one spot. I'm everywhere. So how you can go around the world and you can see an African, you can see a Chinese person, you can see an Indian. We are no longer in one spot, you know. And there was a line also that I wish we could rewind it.
Okay.
We can?
Soy Maradona contra Inglaterra, anotándote 2 goles. Soy lo que sostiene mi bandera, la espina dorsal del planeta en mis cordilleras. Soy lo que me enseñó mi padre.
And how he says, you know, I hold our flag. I say this like about corporate America, if you will, in just regular job situations or what have you. The backbone. If you we've talked about this in one of our episodes.
Yeah.
You let the backbone of your community, of your family, of the company not show up, it's a wrap. Yeah. You let the janitor call out sick. You let the secretaries go on strike. You know what I'm saying? And I consider them to be the backbones of corporations, and they're the ones that keep it all erect. Keep it all moving forward and strong. You know, can you be a living person without a backbone? Yeah, but it is so hard.
Yeah, ask Christopher Reeve about that.
Right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's an impairment. And the thing that bothers me so much about our world and the systems, most of the systems in most of the world, is that we don't acknowledge it and let alone respect it. Let alone respect it. You know what I mean? Especially with America, you know, the tone and tenor that, you know, the Republican candidate, you know, has is get him out of here, get him out of here. Well, who do you think helped to build it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Who, I mean, even historically and even now, right? You let some immigrants not show up for work. My God, you let immigrants not have built the railroads back in the day or the infrastructure of the country. You know what I mean? It's like we're the backbone. And I don't mean that we as in brown people. I mean, whoever you are, you know you the backbone. And we know we know. You know, I know, and we know. What the backbone is, dang nabbit. You know you a pinky toe, and you know you a backbone. We have different roles. Doesn't make us less important.
Right. Because when you're in that grocery store and you want your avocado for your avocado toast and it's not available because you said, oh, I don't want migrant workers coming over here and taking our jobs. And they weren't taking your job. They were taking the job to pick an avocado or a blueberry or a strawberry.
Correct.
And now your grocery store has none of those fruits that you want.
Correct.
And now you're wondering, okay, why can't I get this stuff? It's like because you actually, the people that were coming over and doing the work that you didn't want to do.
You weren't going to do it anyway.
You're trying to stop them from coming in the country.
Correct.
So, you know, the backbone thing I think is a big point. Because I know even when I was working in the restaurant industry, Hispanics are all throughout the restaurant industry. They are the backbone of the industry. I'm running the kitchen, and there's one night where everybody calls out. Mario wasn't there, Jose wasn't there, Caesar wasn't there. So, like, I'm literally on the line by myself, missing my backbone. Like, it's me and the owner, who's the old white guy, who, you know, he's trying to do his best to keep up, but he doesn't know what he's doing. So, like...
It probably was a Mexican holiday we didn't know about.
It might have been. Ran there with some black folks who were supposed to show up that night, too, who didn't show up either.
They was in cahoots.
But, you know, restaurant industry, somebody calling out one of the nights.
Yeah.
But, like, when you start missing the people that are actually...
That keep
the
it
foundation
going, right?
of what is making your society run, like, you don't want to be foolish enough to keep them from coming in, keep them out, bar them out of the industry.
Exile them.
You're just hurting yourself.
Right.
You're
treat
taking
them like
out your own
trash.
backbone.
Yeah. You're hurting yourself.
Yeah.
El que no quiere a su patria no quiere a su madre. Soy América Latina, un pueblo sin pierna pero que camina.
I will, like, that one line stand out to me, like, who doesn't love their motherland, who doesn't love their mother? I think a lot of what you might hear from us may feel like we don't love our motherland, if you want to call America the motherland.
Because we're Americans.
Because we're Americans,
Right.
But, you know, I think of the motherland of the place where your ancestors came from, maybe not so much the place where you are or were born.
But I think most people realize the motherland is where humanity began.
Yeah.
And that always takes us back to Africa.
Yeah. So, like, there's a tenuous relationship, I think, with us and one of the places that might be called our motherland. Maybe it's a stepmotherland, if you want to call it that.
Not the stepmother. Yes, stepmom.
But, like, there's always that battle of, do I not love the motherland, or do I not love the way the motherland is treating me? Do I not love the motherland's politics? And even when we talk about the motherland, something we hear a lot in our comments is the comment of, like, everyone on the continent is Americans. And, like, when we say Americans, we're talking about people from the USA, whereas I think some people want to consider the Americans anyone on the entire continent. And I think that relates to our motherland of Africa, where people think of Africa as a country, and it's not one place. It's all, the entire continent gets grouped together when, you know, I think Africans kind of take that for, they don't necessarily like that viewpoint of Africa because there's so many countries and so many differences, and they feel like, you know, I'm Nigerian, it's me being special, or me being from Cote d'Ivoire or Uganda or whatever it is. And like, oh, do you speak African? Like, no one speaks African because African is not a language.
It's not a language.
Same way Mexican is not a language. My fault last week.
Right.
So, like, there is this idea of continental identity versus
Individual,
national
right?
identity and independent. You say independent identity. So you think of, like, Asians as the continent, or Europeans, or Africans. America, we don't think about it that way as much. I don't know why. Probably because America always feels like it's better than everybody else. And it's probably the only continent that has a country that includes that name in it. Like, there is no country called Africa. There's no country called Asia. There's no country called Europe. They're all continents, whereas America does have the United States of America.
Correct.
So it's a different thing. And I think, I'm not necessarily against the idea of everyone being called Americans because factually it is correct. So like it's just sort of a complicated issue. And I think depending on where you are in society, where you are with your identity, you may want to be included in the Americans and everyone be included in that. But I think as the title of Americans being something that's connected with the US of A, I'm surprised anybody wants to be connected with that title, particularly right now. But I think it's an interesting perspective.
It is. But I think it's just multifaceted. I think it's maybe deeper or broader than especially we can go, right? But just a couple of things I think that take the perspective of the listener maybe, because it's a two-way communication, right? So are you making a mistake and are just unaware that Africa not only is a continent, but it's like the first or the second largest continent in the world, and so therefore what you are communicating is that it's small, and it's not, right? Yeah. So don't talk about me like that, right? You understand what I mean? Like, do you know who I am, right? The richest soil in the world, right?
It overlooks the diversity of the continent.
Right. So I think if it's that perspective, then it's like I need to put you in check. Then if it's,
I do want to jump off that point. Sorry to interrupt, but like I think
do it all the time.
As you're saying, thinking of Africa as a country disrespects the diversity of the country. I think also saying that Americans are only those in the United States of America can do the same thing. So I can understand that viewpoint of saying, the whole continent is us. There is some kinship between us. And by you saying Americans and not thinking of it as including all of us is doing a disservice to the diversity of the continent.
But the thing is, the continent has 3 countries on it. And so
The continent has more than 3 countries.
The continent of North America has Canada, USA, and
Central
Mexico.
and South America is all one continent of America. Or the Americas.
So when you have Guatemala, and the continents, the countries that are connected to Mexico and border Mexico, even Belize. So we're saying that is part of North America also?
No, that runs into Central America.
So that's Central America.
South America below that.
So
we think of the continent as the Americas.
Right. So
it's all America.
But that's, see, for me, now it starts to be confusing, or it could also be, in a way, it could be nitpicky, and like I don't want to belittle it, and I also don't want to blow it up more than it is, right? Yeah. So when just the way that we were raised in our environment, and it's not even necessarily about being racist or negative or anything like that. It's like you said, we're from America, the United States of America, and then I was always taught about the geographical location. We are in the Americas. There are continents. North America is comprised of Canada, USA.
It's all one continuous piece of land.
But still, North America and South America.
The same way there's North Africa, South Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, like that's all still Africa. It's all one continent.
But South America and North America are 2 continents.
No, it's one continent. Because it's all one continuous piece of land. There's no break in it.
So then so then name the continents. You have Antarctica, you have South America, North America,
looking through
Europe,
all the continents.
Asia, Australia, Africa. What I'm saying is South America and North America are 2 continents.
I'm not having that discussion with you. I mean, Google will tell you the answer to that, but it's one continent.
So then why do they have 2 different names?
Because it's the north and the south part of the continent. The same way there's North Africa and South Africa and West Africa. Same way we think about that continent.
Well, See, now I'm confused. And
So like I think part of that is the idea when you grow up in America isn't necessarily directly taught to you, but it's taught to you through many different facets of like there's America and then there's everybody else. So like
which is true.
You
Which
think
is
of
true.
where you are as being disconnected from any other part, and like it's really not. It's all one continent. It all continuously. You can drive from Alaska all the way down to the tip of what is it, Argentina. At the bottom. You can drive that. There's a television show with what was it, Ethan, one of the guys from Star Wars on a motorcycle. He's literally riding the entire length of the continent. Like the entire continent is one thing. Now it is a northern part and a central part and a southern part, but it's still one continent. So the same way there's like sub-Saharan Africa, everything beneath the Sahara Desert. There's West Africa with Ghana and Nigeria and all that there, but it's still one continent, even though they may have their own sort of subsections.
So what I want to say.
And today we learned something.
I'm not agreeing with that, but we will move on for the sake of moving on. But what I will say is that I just think it's important that there is an understanding and I think proper communication if there's a misunderstanding, right? Because I've never heard a Canadian say he was American. I've never met a Mexican that said that they were American. Ever. It's only been in a situation where we say Americans, if we're talking, like as we're speaking and we're coming from a USA within those border kind of conversations, when we are checked and said, well, I'm American too. I've never heard a Brazilian, I've never heard an Argentina, I've never heard anyone from the American continents ever say they were American, ever. Because I thought that there was a understanding that American meant, you know what I mean? And maybe they're hearing it as in, I'm an other. Maybe that's what they're hearing.
I rarely hear a European say I'm European. I hear a
No,
European saying I'm French,
German. That's right.
So I think even though they may not say it that way, I think if you look at the example of the other continents, it is representative of a way to represent continental identity. And as a continental identity, we are all Americans from Alaska all the way down to Argentina. Now, but for whatever reason, our continent has not taken on that identity for the most part.
No, I think we all file ourselves under a flag, behind a flag.
Right. And like no one on the outside looks at that identity that way either, as we do Africans or Asians or Europeans. But not to get hung up on this point, I just think that there may be, to me, it feels like it's something new to start thinking of it in that way. And I think if you start looking at it in a global context and looking at the way other continents represent themselves as an identity, we probably should be following that example of saying, you know, we're all Americans in some way. Though again, why would you want to be connected with the traditional sense of the word American at the end of the day?
Yeah, and it goes against my own, I'm going to say this, it challenges the way I think about people. Because for me, myself, personally, I look at people as people. I do want to know where you're from. You know what I mean? And get a chance to know you. And, oh, what language are you speaking? Because I hear an accent. So for me, I always engage the person in a very intimate way anyway. So for me, I'm not taking away anything from you. You know what I mean? Anything like that. I think that it's probably, this piece of the conversation is probably coming from people who have been cast aside and or who may have felt like they're being left out of the American conversation. That's what I think. I think that there may be some tender feelings. That's just, you understand what I'm saying?
I think it could be a matter of trying to bring America back down with us, of like, because America always wants to feel like it's above and it's separate. And by... You
mean to neutralize and equalize it. We're the same.
Right. So you trying to hide behind or use the American identity as something that is unattainable by those on the outside, when actuality the American identity is all Americans. All of us. I would like to see some research or something done into sort of like a baseline. Is there an continental American identity. So like there is common experiences among Africans. Granted, each country is very different from each other, but there is something that feels like it's a baseline that connects all Africans. Same with Asians, I think, have a very similar.
Like no matter where they are in the diaspora.
Yeah, probably to some extent, maybe more. That might be split up a little bit more between sort of South Asian and North Asian, I guess. China, Korea, Japan.
Yeah, out of the Pacific, or I mean, you
Right.
got all kinds. I
Right,
mean,
there's
we
a lot
just
of
all
variation.
everywhere.
Yeah, and then probably a baseline European experience as well. So I'd like to see, you know, if we want to move forward with that type of identity, what is sort of the baseline experience that we as Americans on this continent all kind of experience together? What's the kinship? What's the tie that binds us all together? I don't know that there is. I don't know, but it'd be an interesting conversation.
That is a huge research project, and I just personally like the way I address it. We all people. See, that's what it's just make it so easy. Use a people. I'm a people. Use a person. I'm a person. I know I'm messing up words, but if we could just, and then maybe where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And you know, then those kinds of things maybe start to add on layers, you know. But definitely just not. How would you say, using where you come from as a weapon, or using where you're not from as a means to demean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all should have the same privilege because we're all a person. You know, piggybacks off of one of our other shows. Yeah. You know.
So before we get back into the video, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with you guys.
Because we was long-winded.
Very long-winded. And y'all probably want a break. Stop talking about how many continents it is. Can we watch the video? We'll be right back, guys. Running a digital business from anywhere in the world, Pixpa makes it easy. Build a stunning website, sell your products, and connect with customers all in one place. No coding, no hassle, just possibilities. Pixpa, your business, your way, anywhere in the world. Sign up today at the link in the description. And we are back, folks. Let's jump right back into the video here.
And we found out during the break there are 9 continents. I'm teasing.
Oye,
Tú no puedes comprar al viento, tú no puedes comprar al sol, tú no puedes comprar la lluvia, tú no puedes comprar el calor, tú no puedes comprar las nubes, tú no puedes comprar los colores, tú no puedes comprar mi alegría, tú no puedes comprar mis dolores, tú no puedes comprar al viento, tú no puedes comprar al sol, tú no puedes comprar la lluvia, tú no puedes comprar el calor, tú no puedes comprar las nubes, tú no puedes comprar los colores, tú no puedes comprar mi alegría, tú no puedes comprar mis dolores.
tengo los lagos, tengo los ríos, tengo mis dientes pa' cuando me sonrío, la nieve que maquilla mis montañas, tengo el sol que me seca y la lluvia que me baña, un desierto embriagado con peyote, un trago de pulque para cantar con los coyotes, todo lo que necesito. Tengo a mis pulmones respirando azul clarito, la altura que sofoca. Soy las muelas de mi boca, mascando coca. El otoño con sus hojas desmayadas, los versos escritos bajo la noche estrellada. Una viña repleta de uva, un cañaveral bajo el sol en Cuba. Soy el mar Caribe que vigila las casitas, haciendo rituales y agua bendita. El viento que peina mi cabello. Soy todos los santos que cuelgan de mi cuello. El jugo de mi lucha no es artificial porque el abono de mi tierra es natural.
Tú no puedes comprar el viento, tú no puedes.
I think there's a that verse in I think its entirety is very to me it feels obviously environmental. We're talking about sort of wind and clear blue skies and the fertile ground,
And it can't be bought.
and it can't be bought. And I think there's sort of the idea of like, no matter how much you might try to own these things, how much you might try and control these things,
control of people, control of systems, all of it.
Yeah, there's still a freedom that is there that combines and ties the diaspora of the Latin community, whether in Cuba or El Salvador or what have you. Like, there is a certain freedom in the earth, and I think from being from indigenous people, there may be a closer connection to the earth, and that no matter what you do, you can't take that from us. It's in our blood, it's in our skin, it's in our language, it's in the saints around our necks that represent more than just your Catholic saints, but also my indigenous religion underneath of that.
How we eat, what we eat, right?
Right. There's something you can't take from us, I think is what he's trying to say. And it can't be purchased. I think that's again, we start thinking about, what is that underlying connection? And we think about Latin America, I think over the continent of America, Latin America is the dominant culture, by numbers, at the end of the day. So while we might think United States of America is the dominant culture on the continent, the things that are talking about in this song aren't things that we necessarily as United States of Americans relate to.
Because we're removed from it.
Right. We're so far removed from it. I think as Africans, we're probably a lot closer.
Right.
Being connected, not necessarily me, myself, being connected to the land, but I think culturally more connected to the land.
Whether we know it or we don't.
Right.
Whether we know it or we don't. And that's so important because we are disconnected from our African culture knowingly, but there is an underlying depth of knowledge that we have. It's a subconscious depth of knowledge that we have because of our ancestors told our ancestors, and then our ancestors became closer to us, our grandparents. So we know to drink certain teas, we know to do certain things, we know cover your head, all these things that we call them old wives' tales, but they came from our ancestors to keep us safe. You know what I mean? And what I love about that verse and then the chorus as well is that even with the oppression of all of the big business and everything, all the things that try to control, they can't. And all you gotta do is turn on the news. Yeah. And the weather will wipe all that out.
It'll wipe everything out
and then guess what?
5 hours.
And we are now back to level set and equal. We all floating in our raft, needing to get rescued. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you are. I saw in the news the other day, there was a police officer waiting to get rescued because of the town, I think in New Mexico, was flooding. So it to me is just so poignant, but and also there's a simplicity to it too. You know what I mean? We all used to bathe in the river. Some of us had a creek in the back and we used to jump in there too, you know what I mean? So there's just such a simplicity to it and a beauty about it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually, this is the way it was supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. Yeah.
It's supposed to be that way. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Comprar el sol, tú no puedes comprar la lluvia, tú no puedes comprar el calor, tú no puedes comprar las nubes, tú no puedes comprar los colores, tú no puedes comprar mi alegría, tú no puedes comprar mis dolores. No se pode comprar o vento, no se pode comprar o sol, no se pode comprar a chuva, no se pode comprar o calor, no se pode comprar as nuvens, no se pode comprar as cores, no se pode comprar minha alegria, não se pode comprar minhas dores.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like there's a power in having the chorus in Spanish and Portuguese because just they sound similar, right? Like even though we are from different countries, we had different colonizers, we are still speaking someone else's language, but there still is some commonality and some unity between the words that kind of connect, regardless of where that language may have come from. Yeah.
Don't be thinking the same thing as me.
Puedes comprar el sol, no puedes comprar la lluvia.
Now, did you smile when she came on?
You trying to say I had a identity a match because she was a brown lady?
Yes.
Maybe I did, maybe
You
I
did.
didn't.
Go back and roll about 5 minutes when she first came out. She was like,
I also smiled at the little naked baby on the beach.
Yeah.
Oh, he was so cute. Okay.
Pero con orgullo, aquí se comparte, lo mío es tuyo. Este pueblo no se ahoga con marullo, y si se derrumba, yo lo reconstruyo. Tampoco pestañeo cuando te miro, para que te recuerdes de mi apellido. La operación Cóndor invadiendo mi nido. Perdono, pero nunca olvido, oye.
Vamos caminando, aquí se respira lucha. Vamos caminando, yo canto porque se escucha.
Wow.
I think in that last portion there was a part of the verse that talks about sort of working, and if it crumbles, I'll just rebuild it. And I think one of the things I didn't fully realize until I came to Mexico, because in the U.S. I worked alongside a lot of Mexicans and Hispanics in general inside of restaurants, and for the most part they tend to be harder working than everybody else. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule. Some folks don't want to work; they're just not workers. But for the most part, my experience with working alongside Hispanics, they've been hard workers in a lot of different ways. And it's different when you kind of come here, and like I always just thought, oh well, culturally they must just be hard workers. And then you realize like the people that are in America working are generally maybe the poorer folks who are really just trying to get a leg up, and they know hard work because they have to know hard work. So like it's the guy across the street from us, truck came by and dropped off a pile of rocks in front of his house. He's building a stone arch in front of his house by hand. He's out there in the street with you can hear him out there banging this morning. He had a hammer and a chisel and he's just cracking rocks. So like we saw the front of his house. In the front of his house he had sort of old vines that were like withered and he made an arch out of those, and we're like, why has he got like old withered vines? And like now I'm realizing he was mapping out the space where he wanted his stone arch to go. So he wanted to see what it looked like, so he took some old vines and he put up a whole arch out of old vines, and then he got the stone himself and cracked it down by hand and built this stone arch by hand. And it's like when you have that mentality, like I'm going to go to the U.S. and wash dishes for 12 hours a day.
That's easy.
What is that?
Nothing.
I ain't got to go out there and break rocks by hand and build my own arch in my house. Like, that's
or build
crazy.
my own house.
Build my own house. Like, yeah. I mean, it's a work ethic that comes from having to live life that way. There's not we live in San Miguel, so the sense of ease here can be very easily had. Obviously, throughout the entire country and throughout every, income level, that sense of ease is not going to be there.
Right.
If you go live out in the campo on a ranch or something like that, and you're living there with your animals and you're farming, and like there's a different, even in the U.S.,
work.
like a farmer's, work ethic is different than a city folks' work ethic. But yeah, I think that's an interesting thing of like across the diaspora of Latin America, there is a work ethic, I think, for the most part, that feels like it's built into the culture that maybe, the United States of American work ethic is a very different work ethic. It's, I'm going to grind, 9 to 5 at an office desk and ignore my family and ignore everything around me, and like that's a very different work ethic than I'm going to do this thing for my family rather than in spite of or ignoring it. So just that sort of called out to me as the work ethic being something that runs through the community. I think is interesting perspective to highlight.
It's interesting, because what was not shown also were the wealthy Americans. Now if I said wealthy Americans, was everybody going to understand I'm talking about the wealthy Mexicans, the wealthy Argentinians?
That's why I phrased the United States of America.
Right. So, see, and it's weird. I got it.
You have to learn a new language.
I gotta learn. Okay, but for the population, meaning the ethnicities that he showed, they're all not poor,
right?
And we've seen it with our own eyes,
right?
So, we have to understand that all Americans south of the United States of America are not poor, right? There are many that are wealthy. There are many that are very comfortable, okay? The other thing, too, as it relates to work ethic, it really I think it just depends on how you grew up.
Yeah.
How you grew up, how you were raised, what situation you were raised in, right? Because right now, if you could talk to some folks who in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and they'll outwork people in their 30s and 40s.
Absolutely.
Because
they grew up having to work.
Correct. They had a totally different grind, a totally different way of life. And so they couldn't just push a button and things just pop on, pop off, heat up, cool. I mean, you flipping switches and stuff. Nah, bruh, you're going to go out there and get the coal, get the wood, and start the fire, and do this and do that. So it just depends on how you grew up, how you were raised, and then also what you were taught to do. Because I'll give for an example. I know, especially in our families. And a lot of people can say the same thing. Our grandparents had it hard, and by hard, I just mean it was just more of a challenge. It's not that it was impossible because we made it.
Right.
You know what I mean? They made it. It was just fewer conveniences. But what they did was they stripped away the hard. Every generation. And that's why a lot of us are so hindered.
Right.
And
I was going to say for better or for worse.
Right.
Like
we took away the hard.
Right. A lot of times we think, I don't want my children to go through that same thing.
But guess what?
Sometimes that thing you went through will build character in your children the way it built character in you.
Correct.
Now,
ingenuity, you can be creative, just being resourceful and good problem solving. Our generation was handicapped by the previous generation, and so on and so on, because the hard was taken away.
Right.
That's
but also
giving
a leg up as well. So
but
we have a convenience here that is on the back of somebody else, right? So we're able to order through Rappi and say, hey, come bring my stuff to the house. Right. It could be cash, it could be groceries, it could be a restaurant order, it could be mops, and whatever you want, Rappi will get it to your house one way or the other. So there's a young man who was he must have been camping at La Comere, my man Jaden.
Oh, bless him.
And to get from La Comere to our house, it's up 2 hills. You go up a hill and come down, you got to go up another hill. Yeah.
He looked like he could have been in this video.
Right. And if you go back down, you got to go 2 hills to get back to the store. So he camps out at La Comere and does deliveries. So we would get a delivery from him, and then we come outside, and then we realized Jaden was riding a bike.
A pedal bike.
Up
he
2
was
hills
the motor.
with our groceries on his back. Up and then up. And then my lovely wife, who tends to sometimes just forget something on the order, would reorder maybe 2 or 3 times in one day sometimes. And every time, Jaden was on his bike up 2 hills, sweating, carrying it. And then one day...
And it wasn't even delayed. The brother was on time.
On time. And then one day, we're watching him on the map, and he's going a different way that you can't go by bike. And then we go outside, and Jaden got a Honda.
What?
My man was working hard for them dollars. And we ain't seen Jaden since.
Pesos.
Jaden probably all around this city doing work on his motorcycle now.
Yeah.
But like that's the mindset that I think we all need to have at certain points in times of like, okay, what am I going to do to grind the hard way in order to get to the place I want to be?
Yep.
And like, it's great that like generation by generation, like none of my parents went to college. That wasn't even a thing for them. They didn't think it was necessary, and it wasn't at the time. Whereas for me, it wasn't as necessary, but it was. So like I went to college once and then went to college a second time. And then our kids, my oldest son has gone to NYU. So like generation by generation, you get a little further ahead. You get a little step up and a little bit, a little extra
Don't
further.
forget I have 3 degrees.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. But along the way, you start removing some things as well.
Removing the obstacles.
So like, you know, I want to make it easier for you. I want to make sure you get back and forth to school. I'm going to give you a ride to school every day.
Carpool, what?
It's like, no, you can go walk.
You can walk.
You
Or
can get
catch
on
the
school
bus. Right.
All that is an option.
Right. Ride your bike.
Right. You want a job? Like, oh, you go drop me off at work? No, you can go get on the city bus.
You sure can. Or work at the neighborhood grocery store.
Right.
You can walk to work. It's okay.
It all builds character.
We take that stuff away.
We do. So I think it's good to see in this video represented the character building, the connection between the diaspora of the Latin community. And I think in a lot of ways it mirrors the diaspora of the African community.
Resilience.
The resilience.
They still have a step. They still have a press. And it's still beautiful throughout, you know, and growing their family. It looked hard, but they're still standing.
Yeah. I think it reminds us to connect back with, you know, that foundational work ethic, culture connection that is between not only Latin community, African community, but human beings as, you know, natural, you know, living on this planet. Like, there's a connection that we need to have with each other and with this earth that needs to be preserved for sure.
Connect with you. He's so annoying. Thank you, Laura G.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and listening through this extra long conversation. Hope you guys enjoy it. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear from you guys.
And what did y'all think about the video?
Yeah, if you had a chance to watch it. If not, you know, I suggest, you know, get a good watch. I'll put a link to it in the description.
Yeah.
Love to hear you guys' feedback on it as well. As always, join the community, 7997ers. Hit the little join button. You get some videos from behind the scenes.
Buy some swag.
Yes. We're in the process of getting our supper club up and running, so we'll start having some content around that on there, so you kind of see some of that happening. And we keep promising you guys food reviews. We are doing it. We're going to start recording some stuff this week, next week, so we'll start getting some stuff to you guys soon.
Somebody
so
has a work trip, so maybe not this week, maybe in like 2 or 3 weeks. And he's not taking me.
I didn't want to go, much less take anybody else.
I'm not anybody else. I want to go. You need to take me.
No.
Close us out.
Bye. Cuídate, Aries Garcia. Take care and take a chance.
I was going to say.
And we'll see you guys next week. Peace, guys. This is the 7997 Podcast, your home for raw and honest conversation, featuring Chris and Jackie, with new episodes every Sunday, wherever you get your podcasts.